Okay, so this will be probably one of the last pages that you actually put into your notebook. So if you're almost out of pages, um, perfect. So each of these, the type of energy resource today is 529. This might actually be the last page that we put into our notebook, but I'm not 100% sure. Each of these is a different type of energy resource, so we're just going to kind of briefly go over how it's used or kind of what humans use it for. An advantage and a disadvantage. Some of these might have more than one. Actually, I'm going to color code this a little differently now that I'm looking at it. So I guess we'll do green for advantage. And I'll probably forget to do that, but whatever. And then disadvantage will just be red, just so you can see it. I know it's a little bit difficult to see parts of this, but you'll be fine. So coal, how is it used? It's burned. Get a little bit closer in on this. Try to take my hair tie off. Looks silly. Where's my little sticky pad at? No sticky note, but I do have a card. So it's burned to generate electricity. Okay, so it's burned to generate electricity. So the coal itself, it's not like we put it into a machine and it pops energy. You burn it, it turns a turbine, and it generates electricity that way. So an advantage of coal is that it's cheap. All right, that's a dollar sign, I think. Does dollar sign have one? No, it has one, yeah. It's cheap. That's pretty much why we use it so much, is because it's cheap. A big disadvantage, one, it's non-renewable. And for all these, you're going to see if it's either non-renewable, I guess there's a little dash, renewable, or it's renewable. So once it's gone, technically we could get it back, but we're going to have to wait millions of years. Yeah, so it's non-renewable. Another disadvantage, it produces greenhouse gases. Okay, and that is not good. It's going to create, it's contributing to what scientists call global warming. It's increasing the amount of greenhouse gases, thusly increasing the greenhouse effect on our planet. Now, there's usually natural greenhouse gases that are emitted anyways. However, the burning of coal definitely accelerates that process. Oil, how it's used. We use it in transportation. It's transportation. But also in, it helps in a lot of various industries. It helps in various industries. So any sort of vehicle, you need to get your oil changed, yada, yada, yada. So gasoline, so transportation is pretty much what we're talking about on that one. X out of this one. I think I need a second card. Oh no, you guys might be able to see. And I already packed up my little animals. Let's put this little creepy guy here. All right, or apparently that's me. Who knows? An advantage. It is cheaper, okay, than some of the other or renewable resources. It's cheaper and it's much more reliable. We are a government or a society that's built on relying on oil, so it's a lot better. Also, big disadvantages, it's non-renewable, and just like the other one, it produces greenhouse gases. Again, naturally, greenhouse gases do occur. However, this is no, no, no. Natural gas. If you have a propane tank or you have natural gas coming out to your house because maybe it's used in your furnace, most of the time it's going to be used for heating. But it's also going to be used in factories and other such places. So you're going to see it a lot, more so than you might think. In some areas, if you have a gas-powered stove or if you have a gas furnace, all that's going to be powered by natural gas. A big advantage is that it burns cleaner. I'm going to put that in parentheses. Cleaner than oil and coal, meaning it's not going to release as much greenhouse gas. It's going to burn cleaner than oil and coal, so it's not going to release so much crap in the environment. Big disadvantage, it is also non-renewable. and it is not easily accessible. There's a huge problem with finding natural gas. You have to find pockets of it, essentially. Not There's this thing called fracking, which is, maybe you've heard of it, like no fracking or whatever. Did I spell that right? ACCESSIBLE, not easily accessible. So to get to the natural gas, it often, in a lot of people's minds, is bad for the environment because you have to kind of unlock it almost. You have to dig it out. You have to figure out where it is. It's not, I guess there's pros and cons to it. Next one is solar. You should figure out how to use this. It's used to generate electricity. Okay. Good. The sun. Draw a little sun. Art class in Miss Penny today. There's our little sunshine. It's used to generate electricity by solar panels, and you can do that. Very basic concept. And if you think about it, we've had solar-powered calculators for quite some time. It's not a brand new technology. It's just now that we're being more widely used. Advantage, obviously, it's going to be renewable. Okay. If the sun all of a sudden disappeared, well, we're all dead anyway, so who cares? Definitely renewable. Big, big, big advantage. And it is coming down in cost the more we use for everything else. Disadvantage, location. And that simply means the best locations, I guess, would probably be along the equator, where the sunlight hits most directly throughout the year. Obviously, you live in Alaska, you're going to have long periods of darkness or very little amount of sunlight, so it wouldn't be prudent to put a solar panel there. So it really just depends on location. That's pretty much all for that one. So I'm just going to skip right down here to tidal. Just like it sounds, it's using the energy of the tides. It's a natural occurring phenomenon, I guess you could say, of the tides. So how it's used? Pretty much the same way. All of these are going to be used to generate electricity. That is the end goal of all of these non-renewable renewable resources, is to replace coal. So how are we going to power everything? So to generate electricity. So think of it as if you're bobbing in the water, you're in the ocean, you're bobbing in the water. In this case, we're almost going to have like little turbines out in the ocean, not too far off the shore, obviously, to get the tidal energy, because the tide doesn't necessarily affect every single square inch of the ocean, but the other parts are closer to shore. So you're going to have to build these closer to shore. It is renewable, so long as we have the moon. That does say renewable. Of course, it looks odd, the Miss Penny handwriting. Renewable. The disadvantage to it is, this is probably one of the least researched types of renewable energy sources. One, it's all based on location. Obviously, you live in Montana or Wyoming. I almost said a Uranus joke, but I didn't. You're not going to have tides, so you have to be on the coastline. And then also, we're not really too sure what the effect on marine life is. So, effect on marine life. When you go to the beach, think about all those little organisms that live either along the beach or right offshore. It's going to have a huge impact on them if all of a sudden we're kind of taking up their space. So wind, same thing. All of these are pretty much going to be, in some way, shape, or form, put them upside down, to generate electricity. That is the end goal for all of these. We want a cheaper, cleaner way to generate electricity, because obviously we're not going to just cut out electricity. That's just not possible. Even if the United States wanted to, there's really, you can't get the rest of the world on board. So even if you have a Tesla, let's say, the energy, unless it's coming from let's say hydropower plant or solar power or wind power, it's still going to be using coal or some other non-renewable resource. So is a Tesla necessarily better than a regular car? Who knows? It just looks cool. And yeah, so renewable. Which were we on? Wind. Renewable, you read about that yesterday. It is quite awesome. It's a renewable. And then disadvantage for wind. You read about these yesterday. Again, it depends on location. Not every location is a great resource for wind. But also, the coast of North Carolina would be a great place to have lots of wind farms. However, due to all the military usages of the coast, it does play an impact on airfields and everything else. Animals, especially ones that fly. They can run into it, yada, yada, yada. So it could harm. I'm just going to put that's a dead something. Maybe I should put a little face around it. There you go. It's a dead cat. I'm not sure. Okay, I should have drawn a bird. Oh well, whatever. And a lot of times people don't think they're nice to look at. You don't want to look outside your window and see this ugly wind farm. Apparently, it's not aesthetically pleasing. So that is for wind energy. Hydroelectric. Pretty much using the power of water. Again, you read about this yesterday. So hydroelectric. Again, used to, move this little guy over, to generate electricity. I just want a piece of paper, I think. Do you have a piece of paper? Ugh. I'll rip a little page out of my Blue's Clues notebook here. Advantage of hydroelectric. It is complete. Oh, I did the wrong color. Must make bad. It is renewable. And it does not emit pollution. Hopefully you read about that yesterday. No pollution. All right, so no pollution. However, some big disadvantages are location. Not everywhere you can just build a dam. Here, the Hoover Dam, pretty cool. Lots of Grand Coulee Dam. If you ever, I think, watch a Bill Nye about it, it's on there. So location, you have to be close to some sort of water source in order to generate this electricity. Also, the environmental. If all of a sudden you create, let's say there was once a flowing river, and all of a sudden you build a big dam so you can kind of control that water source, well, a lot of animals still depend on that, like especially migrating fish. I think they're called like fish tubes or something like that. People are trying to kind of offset the effect of it, but it is what it is. Geothermal. Geo meaning earth, thermal meaning heat. So this is literally just to heat from the earth. So the heat that emanates from, let's say it creates a geyser or whatever, is going to be really just for heating homes. I've not really, I guess when I was doing my own research to complete this, because I don't have an answer key for this, I'm kind of generating my own, I found that it's really only used for generating or heating homes and heating water. Okay, so that's all I've really found about. An advantage of this, again, renewable. That's what all these, I think, are. No, not all of them are. It's renewable, and it does not emit pollution, which is something, it's all nice and fun and dandy, but when you think about how much pollution the other countries around the world are, that have like three times as many people as we do. Disadvantage, apparently geothermal is expensive. And it is location specific. So not every place, not every home can just all of a sudden plug into the earth, essentially, use the heat and water their home, heat the water in their home. Okay. Nuclear, one of my personal favorites, because I remember the first time I taught this, I always thought somehow nuclear energy was like, I don't even know. I didn't realize that all they're doing is making really hot water and, turning a turbine. That's all they're doing to create. So how it's used in power plants. I'm not going to go into the whole application of bombs because this is for energy resources. It's not for everyday applications. So power plants to generate electricity. Okay. An advantage is that no polluting gases are emitted. When you see those big, it almost looks like smoke coming out from the top of the cooling towers, it's not smoke, it's actually just vapor, so condensation, that's all it is. It's just water vapor. So there is no polluting gases emitted. I always thought that's what it was pollution when I was growing up. And you have to have a water source for the water to go. So if you go swimming outside of or near a power plant, the water might be warm because that's where the excess water is going. The big disadvantage is that it's non-renewable. Eventually, we will run out. And then the disposal is different, or difficult. and disposal difficult. All right. You can't just all of a sudden bury it in the backyard.